Good evening, everybody. So we are going to give a couple of minutes just for anybody that's a little bit late joining in. But a big welcome to everybody that has joined us tonight. So first of all, will we start with the bows first?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. So, but Deirdre had said to, I can't remember the girl's name, Cherie, that if they had a chance, no big panic, to cut the ribbon into about 45 centimetres, approximately, which is probably about,
them boxes
okay,
there, yeah.
about 15 or 18 inches. So we'll just push them over to one side. So you're really looking for a strip of ribbon, approximately that length. Now, if you cut it a bit longer, or a little bit shorter, do you know the way, it's absolutely fine. So I'm just going to cut a couple of strips here. And again, if you have a scissors there, you can cut your strip of ribbon, as I said, approximately that length there, right? So it can be a little bit longer or a little bit shorter. Now the first bow I'm going to teach you, if we have got men in the audience, they should be able to do this, no problem. Or if you yourself have a fella that you like to put a tie around his neck, you know, that way in the mornings when he's going to work, you'll have the knack of doing that. But you listen, doesn't matter if you haven't got a fella and there's no men in the audience, it's grand as well. Listen, I'm able to do it and I haven't got a fella. So to make the bow, what you do is you tear a skinny strip off one side of it. Now wait till you see, this ribbon tears real easy and you don't need any nails at all, right? You don't need nails on your fingers. So just get a strip of ribbon, get your finger just there at the edge and just tear it off about that width there. So everybody go ahead and do that. When you've torn the skinny one off, just hold it up to the camera that we know that you have it done. Now don't worry if your one is a little bit thicker or a little bit thinner than mine, it'll be fine, right? Okay, so again, if you have any problems at all, just ask. So you're left with the thicker piece of ribbon,
yeah,
right? So Deirdre can see is all there on the camera, anybody that wishes, and just hold it up. Now, with this piece of ribbon here,
super.
Do you often know, or have you noticed the breast cancer logo, right? Well, this bow is made a little bit like the breast cancer logo, as in that direction there, right? But as I said, sometimes people get a little bit confused. So for anybody that maybe is used to putting a tie on in the morning, going to work, or going to school even, it's like, now you needn't wrap it around your own neck, but it's as if you were wrapping around your own neck and crossing it under your chin. And I call the bow a collar bow, but that's the technique. But we can't actually make the bow when it's wrapped around your neck like that. So take it back off again in case you did it. And what I want you to do is pretend that you're wrapping it around somebody else's neck, but there isn't anybody there. So you're pretending you're wrapping it around somebody else's neck and you're crossing it just under the chin. And that's why I said at the beginning, it's a little bit like the breast cancer logo bow. So if you get that done, maybe just hold it up to the camera so Deirdre can see if anybody is going wrong.
Perfect,
and we'll be able to correct
great
it.
job. Yes, perfect. M. Mooney, if you use the thicker piece of ribbon rather than the thin piece. So if you cross it over with the thicker piece. And yes, perfect. And just make your crisscross a little bit more crossed.
Okay. Now we'll do this a few times.
Perfect.
Don't panic. The first one normally turns out all over the place because you're all fingers and thumbs. So don't panic. We'll do it again and we'll get another strip of ribbon in a second. So don't panic. Now, this piece of ribbon here, where my finger is wobbling, okay, the back, right? This is called the back of the bow. And this finger in the front here, this is called the front of the bow. And what you're going to do is you're going to bring the back of the bow level in behind the front of the bow. So it's kind of like that technique there, that technique there, or even at the back, that technique there. So one is being brought in level at the back of the bow, and then what you do is you pinch it all together between your finger and your thumb. So again, when you have that part done, just hold it up to the camera there that Deirdre can see it, and then she'll be able to check it for you.
Yeah, perfect, Elaine, well done, yes.
Elaine seems to be top of the class. Okay.
And yes, M. Mooney, yes, you're doing
great. And M. Mooney's on the ball as well. Great. Now, what you're going to do now, and it's easy to use your two hands at this stage, right, is if you use your two hands, your finger and thumb on this hand, and your finger and thumb on this hand, and you know, like when you were back in school, and you kind of got a piece of paper, and you made a little fan, and you basically threw it at the teacher, right? Don't throw it at me tonight, right? What you're going to do is you're going to crease, you're going to gather, you're going to squash, and you're going to squeeze in the middle of that bow there as tight and as small as you can. So again, when you have that done, hold it up to the camera there to Deirdre that you can see. Now don't worry, when you do gather it in, it seems to kind of go a little bit crooked, the bow. It'll be absolutely fine. It'll work out for me. And we're going to do it again, okay? So we've got it squashed in.
Yep.
Now this is where if there's somebody in the room that's not doing anything and they give you a hand, because what I want you to do with this skinny piece of ribbon, do you remember the little piece that we tore off earlier on? We're going to wrap that around the middle of the bow, and if you had somebody to help you and you said, listen, will you grab them 2 skinny strings and tie a double knot for me as tight as possible? Now obviously I haven't got somebody to help me, so I'm just going to tie it on my own. So this is where if there's somebody in the room, they're going to tie the knot, they're going to pull it really tight, and then they're going to tie a second knot directly on top of it. That's probably the hardest part of the bow, especially if you're trying to do it on your own. And then when you have the bow made, them 2 little skinny strings, they're going to tie onto maybe the flower arrangement, or onto a wreath maybe on your door, like a spring wreath on your door, or even a present if you're giving somebody a present, okay? And then your finger and thumb is going to be like a pliers, and you're going to go in between the loops of the bow, and you're going to stretch that one out, and you're going to stretch that one out to see how much nicer it looks now. And the 2 straight pieces, you can give them a little bit of a chuck down, and you can see the skinny pieces at the back are going to tie onto something. And with your scissors then, you can just even do a little slanty cut on one side and a little slanty cut on the opposite side. And that's your first bow made. Now listen, don't worry if it turned out a mess, okay? Because the first one is all fiddly and thumbs. So we're going to try that a second time. But I bet Elaine's turned out okay, did it?
Gorgeous.
And what about M. Mooney?
M. Mooney's is lovely too, well done.
And the rest of them are dusting.
Well, the rest of them are hiding behind the screen, so
we can't see the rest of them. Well, fair play to you too. You are doing brilliant, and it's great that you turned on your camera. The others might get brave in a few minutes. So I'm hoping you have another strip of ribbon there, and we'll try that same bow again, right? So get your strip of ribbon, and the first thing is you're going to tear off the thin strip, okay? And you don't want that too thick. And then when you have the thin string tore off, maybe just lie that down on the table. The thicker piece of ribbon, you're going to pretend that you're wrapping it around somebody's neck and you're crossing it under their chin. So again, this could be somebody who you love or you hate, because it doesn't really matter. You're wrapping it around their neck there, like a tie, as if you were putting on your school uniform. This is what I call the back of the neck, and here is what I call the front of the neck. So you bring the back of the neck in level with the front of the neck. And again, you squash the 2 of them together with your finger and your thumb. What you're then doing is using your 2 hands at the same time, your finger and your thumb on both hands, is you're kind of making little pleats, little squashes, little gathers, or just basically squash in the middle of that as thin and as tight as you can. You're then going to get this skinny little piece of ribbon, you're going to wrap it around the centre. Hopefully there's somebody in the room that you have a little helper, you know the way.
I think they're on their own.
You're on your own, are you? Well then you're like me, okay? So if you're on your own, okay, you have to tie the knot. So what I sometimes do, I can't see is, but has any of you got a spare tyre? I bet after the pandemic we all have a spare tyre. I find if you lie the ribbon against your belly, against that spare tyre, now unless you're a skinny one, okay? And then you can be able to tie the knot. You don't even need a spare tyre, but you know what I mean. Hold it against your belly, tie the knot, pull it really tight, and then tie a second knot on top just to make sure that it doesn't come loose, okay? And the 2 skinny strings is what you're going to tie onto something. And then you can get your finger and your thumb and you go between the loops to stretch them like a pliers, okay? So stretch out your loops to give them like a nice shape and take the creases out of them. And the 2 thicker pieces, you can give them a little bit of a chuck or a pull to make them come down. And the first time I showed you where you could just cut the ribbon on a slant at the ends, remember the end of the bow there? But another way is, again, if you have a scissors handy, you could do a little V cut. So what I'm doing is I'm folding the ribbon over in half, and then I'm going to get the scissors and do a kind of like a V or a triangle cut. And when I open the ribbon out, do you see the way you get that little V shape? Do you see just there at the bottom? I'll do it again. It's a bit trickier now. Fold it over in half, get the scissors, cut like a triangle. Now mind your fingers so you don't cut yourself, right? Cut like a triangle on a 45-degree angle. And then when you open it out, you see the way you get that little V at the end. It just sometimes is a nicer way of trimming off the ends of the ribbon instead of the little slant. So how did he manage with the second one?
We haven't seen. Show me Elaine. Have you got
Elaine Mooney, Elaine and M. Mooney there.
Oh, well done. M. Mooney has got the slants, the slits lovely. Well done. Well, Elaine, show us.
Obviously did a bit of dressmaking. You find if somebody did a little bit of dressmaking in the past, they get that little V cut straight away, because it probably is a dressmaking technique. And to the rest of you, we don't know what you are doing. You could be drinking, you could be dancing, you could be watching the telly, but you listen, I hope you're enjoying it anyway. Now, is Elaine and...
Her bows fall apart. She's going to try it again.
Okay. well, what about if we go on to another bow, and then what we can do is at the end of the class we can come back to the bows again, and then maybe even when I'm demonstrating, if you want to be messing around with the ribbon as well, that would be absolutely fine. Are you ready for the second bow?
Yes.
Okay, so the second bow, you need a longer piece of ribbon. Now maybe the ribbon has been cut up for you, because we said maybe about 120.
Doug for, is it? Excellent bow. Absolutely.
Okay, so it's
well done.
a brave one again. She's turned on her camera.
Turn on the camera.
Fair play to you. Because it's the only way we can see is if you turn on the camera. And listen, we're all having bad hair days. That's why I wear a hairband, you know that way. And that's why Deirdre stays behind the camera. Listen, all our nails are in bits. All our hairs are in bits. We all need the colour done. We all need our eyebrows done. There's nothing we can do. There's a pandemic on. Sure, listen, we're all in the same club. So don't worry about it. We don't mind at all. Now, for this piece of ribbon, you needed about 120 centimetres, or just about a yard or a good metre. Now the easiest way to measure this, if it's cut already, that's grand, but if it's not cut, okay, hold the ribbon at one shoulder and stretch out the other arm right across your chest, okay? And if anybody has a short arm, because I know I have a long arm, if anybody has a short arm, stick your chest out, okay, and it'll make it a little bit longer. And that ends up being about 120 centimetres. So that's the length of ribbon that you need for the next bow. So how are you going?
Yeah. I think Elaine's must very long arms.
Okay, she probably done her 2 arms. Yeah, right. So just from one shoulder, Elaine, and the length of the other arm. So that arm is kind of folded in.
Yeah, so just snip it there, Elaine. Perfect.
Brilliant. Okay. So I always call that a good yard. So for the girl that I said she probably did a bit of dressmaking, that was probably a technique that you used, you know, that way, for measuring out a quick yard. Now what we're going to do this time, off this same piece of ribbon, and we'll do a second one, so don't worry if it falls apart, okay? Off one side of it, we're going to tear a skinny piece again, very similar to what we did with the first bow. Now a little trick, instead of starting at the very top when you go to tear it, it's easier to start somewhere near the middle. Now you needn't be the exact middle, because sometimes people go and crease the ribbon. Don't crease it. Just kind of guess and say, that's about the middle there, right? We're tearing a skinny string, right? So it's not too thick, and then just tear that off, and again, lie that down on the table. So when you have that done, give us a thumbs up so we know you have that done. And again, we'll do it a second time, so don't panic. And at the very end of the demonstration, we'll come back to it again. Great. Perfect. Now, the next measurement, right, is 4 fingers loosely. Now, everybody out there has a different size hand, you okay? I think my hand is average. Deirdre has a huge hand towards me, and then some of you could maybe have a smaller hand. Okay, there's Deirdre's hand, okay? So, with the thicker, so make sure it's the fatter piece of ribbon, okay? So with the thicker piece of ribbon, you're going to wrap it around your 4 fingers, loosely, okay? Until it's all gone. Now everybody says, how many times? Just keep going with all the ribbon around your 4 fingers until it's all gone. And you've made like a circle around your hands. So again, when you have that circle made, give us the thumbs up. There we go.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
okay, now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to fold the circle over in half. Now it will turn out quite small, and it might be kind of fiddly to, you know, to hold in your fingers, but just bear with it, okay? So the best thing to do is kind of like get the circle and bring it in close together. See, like what I've done there, right?
Come a wee bit closer to the camera there. Yeah,
there we go. Yeah. And then I'm going to fold it over in half, and where I fold it, I give it a good crease. Can you see what I've done there? Now, do you see the lovely loopy parts down the bottom? Try not to crease that part, okay? So it's only where we actually folded it in half. So how are you going on that?
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Now, on the folded side, so it's on the folded side, now be really careful doing this. You're going to cut out 2 triangles, okay? So we're going to cut 1 triangle on one side, see, like that. And then I'm going to turn it over, or upside down if you want to call it, and I'm going to cut another triangle on the opposite side. Have we worked out, Deirdre? Is there any men watching?
I don't know.
Is there any men in this class, or are you all women?
Anybody know? We don't know.
Are we allowed to say knickers? That's what I'm kind of wondering, do you know that way? Because if there was a man watching, I wouldn't say the word knickers, okay? So we're going to guess that there's no men watching, so we say knickers. When you're cutting the 2 triangles, do you see the way it looks like a pair of knickers, right? So think of that when you're cutting them triangles. Now listen, if your knickers are after turning out like Ann Summers, we're going to go a second job on this in a few minutes, so don't worry.
Perfect. Now, Mooney's, your knickers are a bit frollies looking. They could be a little bit higher leg on them.
Make them a bit sexier, okay? Go for the sexy look, okay? So, now just in case we have got a man in the class, right? You can then open it up and you see the way it looks like a dicky bow, right? So when you're at the next stage, open it like a dicky bow and hold it in the centre of the dicky bow. Don't let it go.
Perfect, yeah.
Brilliant. Now, you know that skinny piece of ribbon that's lying down on the table? Take that back up again, and you're going to do a similar thing. You're going to wrap it around the middle of the dicky bow, and if there's somebody in the room, you're going to ask them to tie it in a double knot, nice and tight. If there's nobody in the room, I think we've worked out they all have spare tyres, have they? So you're going to put it against your spare tyre, and you're going to tie a knot. But listen, use your mouth. Whatever is the easiest thing for you there, tie the knot, pull it nice and tight in the centre, and then you're going to tie a double knot, like a second knot on top. Okay, now we're not finished, we still have another bit to do. So as soon as you have the knot tied, hold it up to the camera there that Deirdre can see it.
Yeah, perfect, super, well done.
Brilliant. Now, have you all been sterilising your hands, okay? And using hand sanitizer, and everybody's hands are nice and clean, okay? Because the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lick my own fingers, okay? I haven't got a bowl of water beside me, so my hands are spotless because they're all sanitised. So I'm going to just discreetly,
Just
you didn't see it,
your own house.
discreetly open your, wet your fingers. Because what we're going to do then is we're going to pull the loop that's on the inside, like the inside one. Now watch, as I pull her out, and when you wet your finger it's easier, you see? When I pull her out, watch, I twist it to me. I get the next one, and as I pull her out, I twist it to you. Now just watch this for a second, okay? You pull the next one out, and you twist it to me. So do you see the way the loops all went in different directions? Now hang on, I'm going to turn it upside down, because it's better if you watch this first, and then you can do it. You might need to wet your finger again. Get the inside loop, treat that like a loop, pull it to me. The next loop, I'm pulling it to you. The next loop, I'm pulling it to me, and the next loop, I'm pulling it to you. And to see the way you're able to make the bow. Now if you do that now, and kind of hold it up to the camera, if you wet your finger, it's easier to grip the ribbon, and we are going to...
a bowl of water.
Or if you have a bowl of water, and we are going to do it again, so don't panic if you make a mess of it. That's allowed, it's allowed. How are we going?
Oh wow, and Mooney, you're flying it. You're flying it. One side of your bow, you just probably need to give it a little bit more of to me, to you.
Yeah, give them a good pull. You know that way, like, don't be gentle with them. Give them a good pull, like when you're pulling them out. Now, sometimes you'll pull it too hard and you break it. But you listen, that's the only way to learn how to do it.